The OBR, a Office of Budget Responsibility, the very thing that for the past couple of years, conservatives in particular, more specifically in this case, Brexiteers and of course the free market fundamentalists, have absolutely loathed with a passion so deep you'd almost think, it's, been like the case of Batman and they were Bruce Wayne and they had somehow killed their parents and run away deep into the night and cursing them. And now they'd dressed up as now Brexit man to fight against the evils of the of the Office of Budget Responsibility. But no, this is very much been the case for the past couple of years. But where did this all start? Why did they start hating the Office of Budget Responsibility in particular? Well, it was because of Brexit. So you may remember when we had our series of indicative votes, where we had MPs all trying to sort of break the deadlock by voting for one idea in particular. And of course, the OBR, well, even prior to this, had published an analysis report, because that's what the OBR does, of what would happen. Now, its analysis basically went like this: that if we were to sort of leave the European Union but stayed in sort of the single market customs union, it would be a 2% hit to GDP. If we were to leave, I think if we left like the European Union, we got some sort of deal, we'd be between, I think they said 4 to 5%, and we're getting back to that later because we'll be talking about that 4% in a bit. And of course, the big one, of course, at the time, that if we left completely without a deal, we could see as much as 8%. And this, of course, got the Brexiteers up in an absolute fury. How dare this office criticize their most precious Brexit? Do they not see that Brexit is meant to unlock all these crazy economic free market fundamentalist models that when Liz Truss did, tanked the economy, almost destroyed the UK's pensions industry, and could have caused God knows what kind of economic damage? Well, you'll not be too surprised today that now the Office of Budget Responsibility has today put out a report on the economy today, and they have basically said, yep, turns out you got this deal. When we looked at it, we said we predicted 4% in the past, and guess what? 4% it is. Shock horror. Turns out they were right, and of course we were right in saying, hey, what are you going to do about this 4%? That's kind of important. 4% from an economy is quite a lot. Even 2% was considered by a lot of economists quite a lot to lose, and to try and sort of regain, to sort of claw that 2% back if the 2% version of that had happened. But anyway, so we're going to have a look at the Bloomberg response to this, because I think it's good to have a look at a foreign press outlet to see what they're reporting on this and what they're saying about this. And ultimately, it's one of the things that they said all along: we will be proven right with time, and we are being proven more and more right with time. Because of COVID, they can blame a lot of it still technically of that initial oomph on COVID and the sort of the pandemic. But as we've always said, the further we get away from that, it's 2024. The pandemic was 2020, sort of 2021. Where we've moved on from that, but we are still suffering the effects of Brexit. You cannot continue to ever blame the pandemic for the reason why the British economy isn't doing so well. But of course, they try still. So we're going to go get into this. But before we do that, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button. And of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on into this, coming from Bloomberg. Title of Brexit Gloom. So, in 2016, the political battle of whether to take the UK out of the European Union, Brexit supporters dismissed the professional economics forecasts for significant economic damage if the divorce happened. The results are now clear. The gloomsayers, as it were, got it right. And it bears lessons for others advocating broad disengagements from the global trading system. The Office for Budget Responsibility, charged with assessing the UK Treasury policy, said on Wednesday that its long range prediction is broadly on track to show a 15% fall in trade if it highlighted that the trade volumes still haven't recovered from the pandemic as much as others Group 7 nations. Again, our largest trading partner, you've decided to, put up barriers to trade. Of course, that's going to have a significant impact. Brexiteers, of course, said otherwise. But anyway, UK trade intensity, the exports plus imports as a share of GDP was 1.7 below the pre-pandemic levels by a third quarter of 2023, compared with just 1.7 above the pre-COVID levels by the rest of the G7. The OBR's analysis also claims that the Bank of England, by showing a long-term squeeze on the country's economic potential from Brexit, is playing out as feared. There has been a 4% reduction in the UK's economy's potential productivity compared to if it had stayed in the EU, the OBR found. Brexit's impact can also be seen in different sectorial performances of the UK economy. The goods trade was down 10%, down on 2019 levels at the end of last year, while its services trade growth has been the strongest in the G7. This is very likely due to the Brexit trade barriers being largely on goods, while the UK is less reliant on the EU for its service exports, the OBR said. But when it comes to trade barriers, this will also likely be a feature of the US presidential election campaign now kicking into higher gear, with former President Donald Trump still floating a 10% universal tariff and will be pushing traditional allies and strategic foes alike in order to try and strengthen our domestic manufacturing. As the debate unfolds, Brexit's pain may serve as a severe warning on the costs of separation. So we were right. Or well, should say the OBR were right in this one, and we were right to warn about their economic predictions at that moment in time. Um, this is all once again coming very much true. As they said, it's on track. We are set to lose 4% of our economy. Um, this is something that Labour have said they want to try and fix. Ultimately, while they may sort of try and sort of do deals and alignment deals, I think the EU will be very open to that. I can't see them saying no to any of this. We'll see what happens, but ultimately, eventually, as we always said, the plan may be for Labour to say, "Hey, look, we have tried to improve Brexit as much as possible. We've got these alignment deals with EU, but this is Brexit. This is as best as it is ever going to be. Are you really sure you want this?" And remember, certainly the next parliament and the parliament after, with the lack of, shall we say, pro Brexit voices in parliament, it does represent a significant opportunity for rejoiners and especially the pro EU movement in that time period. So I think we will definitely see a lot more drift towards the EU, especially if Donald Trump gets in. That's for sure. But hey, this was always going to happen. This is what we always said from the very beginning. We'd go out the garden path and find ourselves on a very much a circular circle, going back eventually into the EU. There's even been a paper recently about from a professor about a phased reintroduction back into the EU. So of course, maybe we'll do that next time. But of course, as always, thank you very much, of course, for watching, and of course, we'll see you all next time.